Hi guys, I'm Frank from Rothrock Coffee, and today we're going to talk about ways that you can improve the quality of your coffee at home. Specifically today we're going to be talking about batch brewing, and when we say batch brewing, we're referring to any sort of machine-assisted brewing where we're creating more than 1 cup of coffee at a time. So there's tons of different machines on the market. Some are really sophisticated and have different settings for temperature or the amount of water they're dispersing. But for our purposes today, it really doesn't matter what kind of machine you have, because we're just going to be talking about some general tips that you can do on the prep side of things before you even start brewing. Before we get started, I just want to talk about a couple pieces of gear you're going to want. First being filters. Most auto drip machines use the same filter. This is a number 4 coffee filter, and you can find it at your local grocery store. Second thing we're going to go over is a scale. These are really important. That way we can measure both our coffee and our water. And third is going to be your grinder. You're going to want to make sure that you have a burr grinder rather than a steel blade, because that's going to give you a nice even particle size. If you don't have access to a burr grinder at home, just make sure whoever is grinding your coffee for you is doing it at a medium setting. All right, the first thing we'll discuss when we talk about brewing is going to be our water. We always want to make sure that we're using filtered water for brewing coffee. Water from the tap has a bunch of different minerals in it that are going to affect the flavor. General rule of thumb is if you wouldn't drink it yourself, don't use it to brew your coffee. The next thing we'll talk about is something called our brew ratio, and this is where measurement gets involved. We're going to be talking about the relationship of our coffee to our water. So for this recipe, we're going to use 50 grams of coffee. So I'll make sure that I'm always zeroing out my scale. Add my coffee. And today we're looking to achieve a ratio of 1 part coffee to 16 parts water. So that means we're gonna need 800 grams of water. Again, got my carafe here, zero out my scale, get my water ready. Perfect. Alrighty. And the last thing we're gonna talk about today is our grind size. Now typically for an auto drip option, we're gonna want a medium grind. This grinder right here has 40 settings, so I set it right in the middle at 20. One thing I do wanna note is that if your cup is coming through a little sour, a little underdeveloped, that you can use a finer grind setting to get the flavors that you're looking for. And conversely, if your coffee is a little harsh or bitter, you're gonna wanna use a slightly coarser setting in order to get the best cup possible. And after our coffee's ground, there's one last thing we can do in order to get a little bit more of a flavorful cup, and that's gonna be rinsing our filter. This is gonna get rid of any sort of papery taste that may be present in our final cup of coffee. All right. Awesome. And we add our coffee to our filter. Give it a little shake just to level it out. That on top. All right, and we're ready to brew. All right, and that's everything for today. Thank you guys for spending some time with us. Go out and brew better coffee at home.